So obviously coming off a huge win last weekend, building some momentum, played really well overall on special teams against what I think the best special teams unit in the NFL. So I was real proud of the way our guys covered kicks. We punted and covered punts very well. The one kickoff return I thought was a great way to start the game. We got called for holding, which is unfortunate. That doesn't happen to us very often because of the way we play and the way we teach it. Obviously, we had Justin was kind enough to miss a field goal at the end of the first half, then we blocked one late in the game, which was a huge play for us. And obviously, we got to finish strong and get our kicker to make those kicks at the end, at least one of them. But at the end of the day, I thought I was real pleased with our performance, and we helped our football team win that game. And now we got another team coming in here who's very good on special teams. They're well coached. They're a big fake team. They have been over the years with Taysom Hill and some of the other things they do, so we got to be prepared for all that.
I saw a sixth in the league in kickoff return average.
I didn't know that.
How has he just kind of grown in that role? I mean, from where he was at the beginning of the year, because he wasn't the guy you initially were playing. You know, you had.
Well, we weren't dressing him early on either, so it was hard to use a guy or focus on a guy that wasn't going to be dressing. But, Coach and I talked about it early in the year, and he's got the skill set, and he runs really hard. He's got the running back vision that we always talk about. And you're right, he has grown in that role. Continually talking to him about ball security, continually talking to him about studying the approach of the kicker. He and I spent a lot of extra time together in my office on Thursdays and Fridays and sitting down and watching the tape, watching the practice tape, watching the game tape, having him understand the nuances of being a really solid kickoff returner. And he, to me, is just the tip of the iceberg. He's only scratching the surface right now because he's got the ability to be really good in that role.
Short, wild left miss by Cade York, more of a concern than...
Yeah, NFL kickers shouldn't kick balls like that, and he knows that. I don't know if it was a loss of focus or the time of the game. There's really no excuse for that type of kick.
After the game, you said before the game, the only way he's going to miss, Tucker's going to miss too, is if you block one. And I mean,
Justin doesn't miss too many kicks overall. And so I went in on he's right, and in fact, did you say John Johnson? Yeah, JJ3. He came up to me and kind of joke around, and made fun of the way I said it in the meeting. Like those guys like to make fun of the old guy. But I did say that in the meeting. I'm like, the only way he's going to miss one is if we block one. Of course, he missed one in the first half, so I guess I was incorrect in that statement. But it was a great effort by our field goal block team. Jordan did a phenomenal job getting hand up in the kick plane. We knew he was going to have to drive it a little bit into that area in that end because wind was really starting to pick up, and it was a 50-yard field goal. So it was a huge play for our football team. The momentum, everything else that goes with that type of play.
How much of a weird kicking night or afternoon was that with Cade missing and then Justin Tucker, hitting multiple misses?
Unexpected to be sure. I think the winds they were supposed to die down a little bit as the game wore on. I think in the fourth quarter they actually picked up. But we were kicking with the winds, so the expectation is to make those type of kicks. But, you never know. The winds do swirl up at altitude, and, the longer the kick, the more difficult it is, obviously, because the wind will affect it a little bit more.
On the one that Tucker missed.
Mm-hmm.
Denzel came ripping around the edge on that. Did he have an impact on that?
I don't think so. I mean, you would like to think so against a young kicker, but, Justin's faced a lot of pressure over the years, so it was a great effort by Denzel. Don't get me wrong; it was a really, really nice job by him. He timed it up and almost got there. But you never know what goes through a kicker's mind in that instance. But I think it has more of an impact than not rushing or not having any pressure at all.
It seems like Denzel's
Blocked a couple in his
career. He has blocked several in his career.
What makes him so effective?
He's got great get off, and he's a phenomenal athlete. He's got great speed. The get off is where, in fact, the very first kick Tucker made, his only field goal he made, I thought he should have dove. If he dives, and he even said so, if he timed it up perfect, if he dives, he might have a chance to block it off the edge.
What do you think's going on? He's 9 of 15 at home and 13 of 15 on the road.
Is that what he is?
Yeah.
Wow. He's missed the 2 PATs this year, both of those at home.
So,
tough place to kick. Not making excuses for him. We keep talking about how young he is. He knows it's time to step up, and he knows that we need him to make those kicks. And he knows that when it's 13-3 and it's in the fourth quarter, you got a chance to put a team away. At least make it a 13-point game. You got to make those kicks. To attribute to, I guess a credit to him would be the better word. A credit to Cade is that he's very hard on himself. He never makes excuses ever. we're trying to figure out how to make him the consistent type of player he is. Because if you look at the 47-yarder into the dog pound in the first half, that's a thing of beauty now. That was a great kick. That wasn't an easy kick at all. And because it was really swirling at that time, and I was real proud of that one to put us up 3-0. So that was a big kick. So it's in there. It's just the tough part for all of us, including Cade, is that he's not as consistent as we need him to be. But that'll be the goal down the stretch here.
Given those stats, with going down an extra day to the stadium.
We've been down twice in the last week.
You did go down twice. First time all year.
Since probably preseason we did. Yep. We were supposed to go, and then somebody, I don't know who it was, whoever tore up the field. We were supposed to go down that day, but they wouldn't let us go down because they were fixing the field. So that was another time we had planned on going down there. So we were waiting on later in the year as it got windier and colder. And
I'm sure going to the stadium helps, but if he's not hitting the ball like he needs to, does it matter if it's at the stadium or not at the stadium?
I think so. Anytime you practice in the venue you're going to play in, I think it's going to help him, at least mentally. But like I said, it's in there. I mean, I think we all saw, and I'm going to go back to the 47-yarder. You guys keep bringing up the misses. I'm going to keep bringing up the make. I mean, he makes a 47-yarder, he makes a P18, he makes a 23-yarder all into the dog pound end. I mean, that's 13 points right there, and we won 13-3. So there's a lot of really good things going on. I can't make excuses for him. He's not going to make excuses. Do we need to play kick better? Of course. And he will. And that is, I'm not into predictions, but my gut tells me he's going to continue to get better for us because he's that talented.
A lot about the weather just in general over your time here, but what is calling for Saturday with a bunch of wind and crazy cold?
Oh, it's going to be cold. We get to play the Saints, and they play indoors. It's going to be fun.
How much does that affect the overall game planning and kicking game, whether it's kickoffs and punts? I mean,
everything. It affects everything, to be honest with you. You don't do wholesale game plan changes, but it's all the different situational kicks. It's a shorter kickoff. It's a mishit kickoff. It's a shorter punt. It's a punt that might hit our corners and safeties if we're in a vice, so you got to be ready for the Peter call. You have to talk about the sideline rules, establish yourself out of bounds on kickoff and then touch the ball, get the ball at the 40 like JoJo did a year ago. You talk about all the different situations that we've been talking about all year. They all just kind of encompass into one game now. To see anything can happen in a win game, and we have to use that as to our advantage. It has to be the Cleveland Browns' advantage, the weather and the wind and in our home stadium, because that's where we play, and that's how we like it.
Mike, you mentioned the kicks he made into the dog pound end. It seems like going the other way all season has been sort of the trickier end for him. Is that just coincidence, or is there something about kicking to the other end compared?
Usually the expectation is to make more on the other end going towards our locker room, because it's, I don't want to say easier, but it's the higher percentage of making kicks in that end. So that would be the focus going forward. He's really locked in the dog pound end, and let's be just as locked in on the other end as well.
But I feel like a big underrated part of it is the mental aspect. I mean, he's a former soccer player. It's similar to taking PKs, right? How do you as a coach help him mentally, especially maybe get out of his head now that he has missed a few and you have the mental aspect that's playing into all of this?
Right. Because he is young, and we've talked about his youth before, the mental part of it is huge. And the thing about Cade is that he's a very confident young man. I've been around a lot of young kickers. If what happened to him on Sunday happened to them, they're done for the year. I mean, they unravel. He went down the stadium and was crushing the ball. He made a 60-yarder. It was freezing cold. The wind wasn't big yesterday, but we got all that on tape, and he hit a 60-yarder into the dog pound end. I mean, who does that after the game he had the other day? So he's very confident. He knows he's good. He knows what he's got to work on. But I think the thing is, I'm not going to give him false confidence, I guess the word is, but I am going to help him with his confidence, and we're going to go back to the kicks that he's made and the tough situations where he's made them in, and then kind of build from there. Focusing on the negatives, not who I am anyway. I'm a very positive, I'm a glass half full guy anyway, and I think that's the way you deal with any young player at any position that's struggling. The mental part of it, you got to really boost them up, say, hey, look at all the great things you're doing now, let's do that more often. That type of aspect, that type of concept. They've been great. The snap and holding, the protection's been outstanding all year. Knock on wood.
What makes Shaheed, I think I pronounced that right, if I didn't, I'm sorry.
You did.
What makes him such a dangerous return guy?
He for a young guy, he's got a lot of confidence. He can come up on the short kicks. He can, he's not worried about running back and catching one over his shoulder. I'm talking about punts. I think he's a better punt returner because he's so quick and he's got speed. Kickoff return, he's good too. You like a bigger athlete as a kickoff returner, but he can still break tackles because he can make people miss. But he's very dangerous, and he's another guy, a young guy that's gaining confidence as the year goes on because he was not the starter early on. I think Hardy, number 11, was the starter, and when he went down, this guy's come up and he's done a really nice job. We liked him coming out. I think he had some medical stuff going on that we didn't think about drafting him or whatever, but I know he's done a really nice job for New Orleans.
You mentioned Hill at the beginning. Just how special and how impressed are you that the guy who's playing quarterback for whatever number of snaps is also playing a bunch on special teams?
He's a football player through and through. I'm kind of going to date myself. Tony, you might remember Gordy Lockbaum from Holy Cross. Remember that name? Gordy Lockbaum was a great player. I mean, a 1AA player, but he was phenomenal. He kind of reminds me of him. He does everything. He's on kickoff return as a returner. He runs the punt team. We call him the fullback. He run the fakes and throwing fakes, running fakes, whatever. He's lined up at a punter and faked it before. He's on punt return, rushing the punt. You always have to find him because he can run over your wing or run up and under your wing because he's so athletic and big and strong and fast. So he's a great football player. I think every team would love to have a guy like him.
Back on the punts?
He's the PP, the fullback on the punt team. Yes.
Young guys and other veterans that they can spend a lot of time around and really get used to. For Cade being the only kicker on the roster, what does that look like for him this year in terms of getting acclimated with this game at this level and really adjusting?
I think he knows it's time to adjust full bore now. What do we have? 14 games under our belt. We got 3 to go. He's been around long enough now. To me, the veteran guys like to tease the rookies. Hey, you're not a rookie anymore. And this is week 16 coming up. Our 15th game's coming up. So for Cade, he's kicked enough games in our stadium. He's kicked enough games in the NFL now. It's time to, as he knows, to grow up and to be, not that he hasn't, and I think he's trending in that direction, but I think it's time for him to show up for us on a more consistent basis, and he knows that, and I'm excited for his future here.
What's it look like for him to this point?
I don't understand.
In terms of who he's been, is it you all the time? Just really getting him used to this level? What does it look like?
Well, I think any of the guys. Charlie's been a huge influence on any of our young players. Corey's only been in the league 3 years, but he's helped a lot too. These guys, they do a great job of communicating about the wins. Corey and Cade and Charlie are always talking about the wins, the weather in our stadium or in the opposing team stadium, wherever we go. They do a really good job communicating. Cade communicates with Corey how he wants the ball held, a certain tilt, a certain way forward, or if it's into the wind, left to right, crosswind, right to left, crosswind, et cetera. So all those little things they continually talk about and help each other out with.
He said after the game it was just coincidence that him and Tucker just happened to be kicking 70-yard field goals in the warm-ups the same way. Was there a little bit of a, one-on-one competition going on there?
I don't know. Maybe I hope our guys are just getting focused on playing, but I'm smart enough to know that there's a little bit of pride there for both those guys. But I don't know. I just like to make all our PATs, and we'll go from there. Especially this weekend with the weather. So we'll kind of leave it at that.